You said it again. I'm fine, just tired. And they looked at you. Not long, not loud, just one beat too long. Then they said the thing. You're not just tired. Something happened on Tuesday. You didn't mention Tuesday. You didn't mention anything. You just said you were tired. And now your face is doing that thing it does when neutral fails in the only place neutral can fail. The corner of the mouth, the half blink, the small adjustment in your shoulders before your voice catches up. They saw it, all of it, in the space between two sentences. You're not paranoid for feeling exposed. You're sitting across from someone who knows how to read what most people are trained to ignore. And once you understand what they're doing while you're still being polite, two things happen. You stop feeling crazy when it happens to you, and you start catching it yourself. Watch closely. Some people don't need an hour to read you. They need about 90 seconds. It's not magic. It's not judgment. It's not even unusual. It's just rare because most people listen to what you say. A few people listen to what your face does while you're saying it. Psychologist Paul Ekman spent 40 years documenting this. He named the thing they're catching micro-expressions, tiny facial movements about 1/25th of a second long that leak the emotion you're trying to hide. Most people miss them entirely. A few people see them automatically. And once you know what those people are doing in real time, you stop feeling violated when it happens. You start understanding why your own nervous system already knew. Here are 5 things people who see through others instantly are doing while you're still mid-sentence. Sign 1. Watch closely. The half-second read. You sit down, you've barely said hello, and in the small window before the conversation actually starts, they've already scanned your face once. Not stared, scanned, forehead, eyes, corner of the mouth, hands. They've clocked the asymmetry. The side of you that looks composed versus the side that's still carrying something from earlier in the day. This is what Ekman called leakage. The expression you didn't mean to send. The flicker before the mask lands. Most people miss it because they're rehearsing what they'll say next. Decoders aren't. They're listening with their eyes first. You're not being scrutinized for flaws. You're being read with care. There's a difference. And your nervous system knows it. That's why some people feel slightly exposed around them and oddly safe at the same time. So next time you meet someone and feel weirdly transparent in the first 30 seconds, don't panic. Notice their pacing. The people who read fast also tend to wait. They've already seen it. They're just deciding how kindly to mention it.
Sign 2. The baseline capture.
There's something people who read others do in the first minute that almost nobody else does. They build a baseline of your normal. How quickly you usually speak. How often you blink. Where your hands go when you're at ease. How your voice sits when nothing is wrong. They're not doing it to manipulate you. They're doing it because reading deviation is impossible without knowing the default. Behavioral analyst Joe Navarro, who spent 25 years in counterintelligence, calls this norming. Every accurate read of a person starts here. Without a baseline, every signal is just noise. You file things differently than they do. You remember the conversation. They remember the conversation, plus the moment your shoulders dropped a quarter of an inch. They didn't try to remember it. It just got stored, the way song lyrics get stored when you weren't trying to learn them. This is also why these people seem to catch your mood shift weeks later. They didn't suddenly become attentive. They've been calibrated since minute 1. So next time someone clocks a change in you before you've said a word, don't assume they're guessing. They're comparing you to you. The pattern doesn't lie. Sign 3. The question that isn't about the answer. You'll notice this one later if you notice it at all. They ask you something that sounds completely casual. How was the weekend? Did you end up going to that thing? How's your mom doing these days? You answer. You move on. They didn't actually care about the weekend. What they were watching was how you answered. The pause before you spoke, the word you almost said but swapped. The breath you took in the middle of a sentence that didn't need a breath. The pivot you made when one topic got close to something else. Behavioral researcher Mark Frank, who studies high-stakes deception detection, has documented this for decades. The most accurate human readers don't analyze the content of an answer. They analyze the shape of an answer, where it speeds up, where it slows down, where it goes flat. Most people walk away feeling like they had a normal conversation. The decoder walks away with a map of which subjects you can talk about freely and which ones you can't. You file it. They file it. The difference is they remember the file exists. So next time someone asks you a small, harmless-sounding question and lingers a half second too long on your answer, pay attention. Not to defend. Just to notice the question wasn't really about the question. Sign 4. Tracking the mismatch. People who see through you instantly aren't listening for what you say. They're listening for what doesn't line up with what you say. You tell them something is great. Your voice drops at the end. They catch the drop. You tell them you don't mind. Your jaw tightens for half a second. They catch the tighten. Your words are saying one sentence. Your body is saying a slightly different one. Most people only hear the words. This is what researchers call incongruence. The small gap between the verbal channel and the non-verbal channel. Joe Navarro again. The body almost never lies because the body is slower to edit. Words get rehearsed. Posture doesn't. Faces don't. Tone doesn't. Decoders aren't catching you in something. They're catching the version of you that hasn't been pre-approved yet. The part that still gets to be honest. This is why people who can see through you also feel oddly relieving to be around. Some part of you stops performing, not because they demanded it, because they were going to see the real version anyway. And your nervous system noticed. So next time someone smiles at the thing you said and doesn't quite let you off the hook, soften your shoulders. You're not being judged, you're being met. That's the spark. Sign 5. The listening that decodes. This is the one most people never name. Decoders listen to your silence as carefully as your sentences. The pause where you almost added something and didn't. The half second after a question lands. The breath that should have been a sentence. The anyway that arrives a beat too quickly. Psychologist William Icks, who built the science of empathic accuracy at the University of Texas, found that the most accurate readers of other people aren't the ones who talk most. They're the ones who let silence do half the work, because silence is where the unedited version of you tends to surface. You've felt it. The friend who asks one question and then just waits. Most people would fill the space. They don't. And in that quiet, something inside you reorganizes itself enough to say the truer thing. That's not interrogation. That's literacy. So next time someone asks you a question and lets the silence sit, don't rush to break it. Let the quiet do its work. You'll often find the answer you were hiding from yourself was waiting just under the polite version. Now zoom out. Here's the truth nobody decodes for you. Most people walk through life convinced no one really sees them, and quietly hoping someone will. Then, occasionally, someone does. And it feels exposing for about 6 seconds, and then it feels like air. People who see through you instantly aren't reading you to catch you. They're reading you because they were trained by life, by curiosity, by paying attention while everyone else was performing, to notice what most rooms agree to ignore. Reading people clearly is a literacy, not a weapon. The more accurately you can be read, the less alone you actually are. And you just learned what they were doing all along. The half-second read, the baseline, the shape of an answer, the mismatch, the listening. 5 patterns most people will never name. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. That's not a curse. That's a quiet kind of power. If this gave you that weight, that's exactly what happens to me moment. Hit subscribe. We decode a new pattern almost every day, and the next one is already loading. And tell us in the comments, has there ever been someone in your life who saw through you in under a minute? What did they catch? Until next time, stay observant.